with his girlfriend. Bryan has a job, girlfriend's doing grad school at UW. He decided to take the move with her over here, and some of you guys, viewers from Salt Lake, probably know who he is. But for you guys that don't know him at home, he lost his winning match at Pro Tour Barcelona.
Oh, okay.
A little while ago. He's playing the Pro Tour a handful of times.
An accomplished player.
Yeah, doing quite well. He has a couple top 16s in the Star City circuit as well.
Sure.
But we don't come to Utah, that area, very often.
Yeah.
So today I was talking to him during deck building, see what he was playing. He said, I haven't played Standard much. Blue White Flash looks like the best deck, so I'm going to play that. And here he is at 6-0 playing for top 8 right now.
There you go. And there's JR on the left. He's playing 4-color Reanimator. We saw him playing this earlier. He's going to play a turn 2 Mulch, take a Temple Garden, putting in Unburial Rites, among other things, into the graveyard.
And the Blue-White Flash deck here for you guys are probably used to this right now. Adam Prozac's little child that he has developed here. Just a deck that plays mostly on the opponent's end step. I don't think he's made any wild changes to the deck. He does have a second Rewind. He also has 2 Sphinx's Revelation, where Adam did have 1 initially, and Adam said he wanted to play 2. So,
yeah, not a huge deviation from Adam's list. He is also playing Cavern of Souls, I notice.
Yeah, he does have 2 copies of that as a concession, kind of to the mirror, most likely.
Yeah.
As we're going to see, I think, twice here on the end of John's end step. John did just mulch again, found a Rootbound Crag, put some things into the graveyard, so he's just getting set up as his Reanimator deck is aching to do.
Now, do you think that this matchup favors the Flash deck? Because Reanimator really has a couple pressure points that it just needs to try and to get. But in the longer the game goes on, the more you can just start casting your giant animals and not needing to cast and then flash back your Unburial Rites.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm not entirely sure who is favored in this matchup. It seems like it's very swingy back and forth. One card that I know is a huge problem for Bryan's deck is Lingering Souls, which JR is flashing back right now.
Right.
Being able to cast both ends of that card in this matchup on turn 3 and then on turn 4 flashing it back is huge.
Yeah, without a Syncopate or a Dissipate to be able to deal with it, there's absolutely nothing in the Flash deck that really deals with the Lingering Souls.
Yeah. And Restoration Angel does like a decent job of it, maybe trading off Morrowind Haunt token,
right,
stuff like that, but there's no real clean, efficient way to deal with the Spirit tokens once they're in play.
Yep.
So we're going to see Bryan Thought Scour here in response to Lingering Souls, mills a Syncopate in the Plains, draws an island, Lingering Souls does resolve. So John actually has, you can consider this to be a threat, as we see Azorius Charm cycled here in the end step as well.
Blue White Flash is a deck that is exactly the type of deck I expect Adam Prozac to play. And it's exactly the kind of deck I don't want to be playing, because the margins are so thin. It's like Rug Delver and Legacy. I'm just not that player.
Yeah.
Like, you mess up once, you counter the wrong spell one time.
Yeah, Brainstorm wrong,
dead.
Ponder wrong.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I just can't handle it. But Prozac obviously is a master of, casting exactly the right spell at exactly the right time, knowing what matters. I'm not that good at Magic.
Yeah, I personally don't sequence very well with those kind of decks. I sequence much better with creatures, and what order to play them in and when to extend.
I think that you and I might be the 2 biggest fans of Gold Medal Stalwart on the planet.
It's close.
Yeah.
It's definitely close. I definitely lead the camp. Now, whoever wants to take second place in the camp, that's fine. That can be a position that can be fought for. I can have a VP.
Yeah, I'll take as many as I'll take as high a position there as I can.
As we see a little bit of trading back and forth, Thrag Tusk got countered, Lingering Soul token got bounced. Well. Huntmaster also eating an Essence Scatter.
Yeah, Bryan actually has 8 counter spells, which usually this deck runs 6 or 7, right?
Yeah, it runs in between like 7 to 9 main deck. And Bryan's counter suite is 2 Rewinds, 2 Dissipates, 2 Essence Scatters, and looks like 2 Syncopates.
Now the thing about JR's deck is, yeah, it is Reanimator, and yeah, he's getting his spells countered, but JR has way more threats than most Reanimation decks already do. Like, he's got Huntmaster of the Fells, Thragtusk, and Centaur Healer, in addition to the Craterhoof Behemoths, Angels of Serenities, and the must-counter on Burial Rites.
Yeah.
Plus Lingering Soul. So eventually, you would think, Bryan is going to be like, counterspell, Snapcast, counterspell. You're going to run out eventually, though.
Yes, I mean, he only has 8, and then the 4 Snapcaster mages.
And unlike Delver, there's no clock.
Yes, and some of the counter spells in Bryan's deck are situational. Like, there's nothing saying the Syncopate is going to actually get something.
Exactly.
Depending on how John plays, as we do see the Unburial Rites that you spoke of being rewound.
That's right. Urza's Saga rewinds and 10th edition unsummons. I would have preferred to see, like, older, but it's fine. I'll let it slide this time.
So we're going to see Faithless Looting attempt to get flashback here. It's going to resolve.
Yeah. That's a couple of hoofs. No, that's a hoof and a Thragtusk.
Beastly friends.
Yes. Now, JR is playing one main deck Cavern of Souls and one out of the sideboard. When that name's Beast, the blue-white flash deck is in quite the bit of trouble.
I would incline to agree with you yet again. As Bryan is taking a look through the graveyard, Cavern, as Patrick and I talked about earlier today, is a natural card for people to go to try to be able to beat the flash deck.
Yeah.
And again, the flash players know this, and it is a card that is clearly good against them, but it's not a card that they are dead to. It's a card that they can certainly beat, as we see Bryan trucking through his deck here with some Thought Scours, revealing a couple of cards.
Furiously Thought Scouring. So he's going to end of turn Restoration Angel here.
Okay.
And this is going to be an enormous Runechanter's Pike, I think, is what Bryan has in hand. Representing a... Oh, nope, never mind.
Just
yeah, a Runechanter's Pike was going to be enormous there if he had one.
I mean, one thing about this deck, Ruben, is it's just all about velocity for Blue White Flash, just getting through its deck as fast as it can, stocking the graveyard for both Snapcaster Pike and additionally Moorland Haunt.
Yeah, and John's deck also quite fond of the graveyard, stocking up its graveyard as fast as it possibly can, eschewing the Thought Scours and other, you know, think twice, just kind of drawing and discarding and things like that. Instead, filling its graveyard with, you know, much, much, much bigger but more varied looting effects in Grisly Salvage and Mulch, and Faithless Looting.
Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Grisly Salvage put on the stack as well. There's the fifth one.
Yep, and so this is likely going to snag this Thragtusk. He's got Angel, Craterhoof, and Land in hand, so he is able to cast whatever he wants next turn, including the hoof. I think he would have liked to have found the Crater or the Cavern of Souls there, but again, when there's only one.
I feel like that's one of the cards that he's like secretly digging down to. Between all this mulching and looting, Grisly Salvaging, he is looking for that one Cavern to push through that Craterhoof Behemoth or the Angel of Serenity.
So Bryan does have a clock here, so he's actually able to start winning the game, although he's very low on cards, having played 3 counterspells, 4 counterspells?
In between 3 or 4, and we are going to see Thragtusk here again. Snapcaster Mage has arrived.
Yep. On a rewind.
And so he can keep up the shields here.
And also potentially deal some more damage.
Yeah,
JR's only found one of his Lingering Souls this game.
Kind of strange since he's gone through so many cards.
Yeah. Seems a little odd.
We're going to see a Faithless Looting here, and I actually like Bryan's play quite a bit of Snapcaster Rewind that turn. I was a little skeptical to begin, and the reason I ended up liking it is because he has another Snapcaster Mage in his hand, so he can Snapcaster, you know, Snapcaster Essence Scatter or Snapcaster Syncopate.
So JR found both Lingering Souls with that Faithless Looting. He discarded one of them as well as the Craterhoof Behemoth. He's going to attempt to flashback a Lingering Souls, and either go for the big kill with Craterhoof next turn, potentially.
Sure.
One is going to stand in front of the Snapcaster Mage. The other 2 are going to stay behind.
Take it right on the chin.
Oh, he discarded the Craterhoof. So he's going to try to Unburial Rites Craterhoof. Oh, and there's another one. So check that out.
So it looks like he may be... this will be +3 for each of his guys, so 4, 8, 5 is 9, 10, 11, 12, so it's not quite lethal yet.
Yep, he's just going to keep playing Lingering Souls. Now, he does have another Snapcaster Mage to be able to Snapcast Dissipate, correct?
That is correct.
Seems like the likely... Or just cast a Dissipate from our hand.
And so this does leave access for Bryan for Snapcaster Mage plus Essence Scatter or Snapcaster plus Syncopate.
Yep.
And that is the Syncopate we see.
Quite the impressive series of plays there. Well, you'd think he'd run out of counterspells, but didn't seem like he did at any point.
John trying to hold on as we're going to see some blocking here.
Yep.
Oddly enough, and Bryan alternatively trying to hold on and get through those last points
That's
of
right.
damage.
And now he has a Moorland Haunt, so he can start throwing guys at the problem. Although Angel of Serenity is going to throw a kink in the works.
Ah! Does this resolve?
That one's finally going to resolve. We finally beat him down enough.
Well, Bryan has it now. Bryan's last card is Azorius Charm, so he can consider cycling this and trying to hit some sort of counterspell or a Snapcaster Mage. It's going to be tough. He's run through a good amount of his counter magic.
Yeah, he's cast 5 or 6 now. They all start blending together once you. Even when I'm playing, I'm just like, how many spells have you countered? And that's the problem with the blue-white flash deck, is that it is very similar to the Delver deck, but it does not have a clock like the old Delver decks used to. And you can't afford to run Delver of Secrets in this deck because there's no way to set yourself up with Ponder, even though you're running basically the same number of instants and sorceries that you were in old Delver. You just, you have 5% less of a chance to flip your guy when you can't play your Ponders.
And even in addition to that, looking just over this deck list, if you're going to play Delver, you have to make room for Delver.
Yeah.
So, there's not 4 slots just magically appearing.
Right.
You do have to cut some cards to fit the card in, and that's not particularly easy to do, as we do see Angel of Serenity resolving, bringing back an Angel of Serenity and a Thragtusk in John's graveyard. Restoration Angel going bye-bye, but another one here to go Haumf.
That's right.
On a Spirit token.
Now, Bryan is hellbent, so he's living off the top of his deck. Not a place where the flash deck really wants to be. Although he does have the Moorland Haunt, which should be able to help a little bit, although not sure how much it's really going to help.
You see JR draws himself a Dreadbore this turn. We're going to see Faithless Looting. I'm going to draw him a Huntmaster of the Fells.
And a Grisly Salvage. That Grisly Salvage is probably going to hit the graveyard, I guess. The Angel of Serenity on the bottom is the one that's in play.
Now, if you're JR, you need to be careful here, because even though Bryan is living off the top of his deck, it's super important to be careful, because let's say he gets in here with Angel, hits him.
And then Bryan plays gets a token and then either has or draws a Runechainer's Pike.
Yeah.
He's just dead. Or had he flashed in the 3rd or 4th Restoration Angel.
Yeah, that
or
would
a Snapcaster Mage. I mean, any of these things have put JR in a very bad spot. But you can't play around everything. So John is just gonna go for it here. And now that we're chump blocking with spirits, I think we're in an okay spot.
Just needs to be careful. Even though he is ahead right now, he still needs to be careful.
Yep.
And Bryan going to take 5 more. It looks like we're going 3-3.
Yep.
Toe to toe.
And this Huntmaster is going to come down and put JR back up to 5, which isn't terribly relevant at this point. Like, Bryan either is going to get it or he isn't.
Yeah, Restoration Angel's still going to do it.
Yep.
Pike is still always going to do it.
Snapcaster Mage will not do it anymore.
Yes.
But I think that if he had had a Snapcaster Mage, that was going to garner a lot more value than whatever he's planning on doing at end of turn step.
There's a Huntmaster of the Fells for John. We do know that he also has a Sever the Bloodline in his graveyard, which is interesting. It's a card that he could have cast on those 2 spirit tokens. But now he's in a situation, kind of crossing his fingers, hoping he doesn't die.
And he won't. Doesn't look like.
See, Glacial Fortress. It's also super important for Bryan to cast a spell here this turn, because Huntmaster's threatening to flip.
Yep, and that's the end. So JR is going to take game 1 against Bryan Hawley playing Blue-White Flash. Moving quickly to the sideboards here. What do you see Bryan bringing in?
Looking at Bryan's deck list in front of me, obviously, first thing I'm looking for is Graveyard Hate against the 4-color Reanimator deck, and Bryan has 3 copies of Rest in Peace, so that's one heck of a start. Now, of course, John's deck can play normally. That's one of the nice things about this Reanimator deck, is that it can still play Magic in such a fashion of casting a spell, casting Lingering Souls, using Faithless Looting and stuff like that. It's just normal draw spells. It's clearly not as powerful this way, but it's definitely something it can do. He could board in Supreme Verdict, which he does have 3 copies of, but I don't really love that here. 3 Talon Sky Summoners, I'm not entirely sold that that's what this matchup is for. 2 Clones, which are nice because, I mean, it's a reanimator deck. There are a million good targets. And then 2 Fetter Guys, which can actually just act as a 3/4, flyer for 3 mana with almost no drawback. Yeah. So definitely some options available.
Pretty realistic to bring in.
How about for John's side?
John's side, he does not have as many things to bring in for this matchup as I would have liked. He's got an extra Craterhoof Behemoth and an extra land, and I think that that's the plan after sideboard is to just cast your spells.
Sure.
Like all you really want to be doing is like make your opponent's rest in peace actually a mulligan.
Sure. As best you can.
As best you can. I mean, there's no way to actually get around it. You're still going to keep in your Unburial Rights. You're still going to keep in your Mulches and your Grizzly Salvages. There's no way to switch out entirely of your deck. But I think that that's one way to go. One way to go. I also anticipate he'll bring in these Centaur Healers.
Okay.
Just because they're no one's really playing anything big early.
Sure.
And Centaur Healer's actually just an extra turn or maybe 2 against Bryan's deck.
Okay.
And he's got some stuff that I would want to take out. I want to take out the Sever the Bloodline. Dreadbores aren't very good. He might take out Lingering Souls, although...
No, I don't think there's any way he boards out Lingering Souls.
Yeah, I don't think so, now that I think about it. But
I think
I guess there's not that much he wants to take out, and there's not that much he wants to put in, so... John's just going to try and go with his game plan.
Yeah, I think that he potentially cuts down on some number of Imperial Rights just to hedge against Rest in Peace. Maybe he moves down to 2 or 1 because, again, he can just play a normal game. I definitely agree with you on Sever the Bloodline and Dreadbore being boarded out as well. Maybe some number of Faithless Lootings get moved out, or 4 Angel Serenities is a lot to have against this deck.
I think that the least important of the 3 enablers of Mulch, I think, is very important. He wants to hit all of his lands.
Okay.
Faithless Looting lets him turn lands into cards, which I'm not sure is as important against the Blue-White Flash deck.
Okay.
Because he wants to be casting those 8 mana, 7 mana guys.
Sure.
Grizzly Salvage puts a lot of cards in the graveyard. I'm not sure how much he wants to be doing it. I'd probably cut down the most on the Grizzly Salvages, just because they cost 2 mana.
Okay.
And the Faithless Looting lets you use your mana more efficiently.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't really played that much with this deck, and I'm also just a simple caveman lawyer. So
that's fair. I mean, this is a matchup that I'm surprised we haven't seen more today. This is the first time we've actually had it on camera. I'm sure it's happened in the tournament, of course.
Yeah, I was talking with JR. There's just not a lot of Reanimator here, and the 2 or 3 Reanimator guys I've been keeping an eye on. We saw Jamal earlier playing Reanimator. He's still X1.
Okay.
JR's undefeated, and then there's another Reanimator player that was also X1-1, I believe.
Okay.
And yeah, all the reanimation decks have been doing really well today, and I was just a little surprised that there weren't as many here.
Just not a ton in the room? That is surprising to me, the result that it's been putting up over the past, I'd say, month or so. Grand Prix Auckland had a nice showing there. It's had a nice showing on the Open Series circuit as well. Justin Upples had some nice performances with a different take on the deck. Magic Online results as well, so it is a little bit surprising.
A little bit, but for some reason, Seattle's weird.
We sure are.
And you go to Portland and there are no Delver decks in the top 16, and then a Delver deck wins states after rotation.
Yeah.
So
doesn't make a ton of sense. I can't really argue with you on that.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm all right with it. Keeps things interesting.
So you see, John did take a mulligan to 6. Bryan did keep his opening 7. We see a Faithless Looting here from him. He's going to get some things set up here.
Find some lands. Did you guys mention that JR is starting work at Wizards? This is his last tournament.
Is this the penultimate tournament? Is that the?
I don't know if he's playing Legacy tomorrow. I think he might be.
Okay.
He says he has Dredge. He doesn't know if he wants to play it. But yeah, this is his last competitive weekend before he starts work on Monday.
He's trying to make it a good one.
Yeah.
As he's playing for top 8 here and up a game.
That's right.
And Bryan does not have a third land.
Oof, rough.
So we're going to see a Mulch here from John, which is going to do his best to find him lands, because that's what Mulch does.
Does an okay job. Oh, he brought in the Deathrite Shamans.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. Takes care of Think Twice, makes Snapcaster worse.
Makes Snapcaster worse, it's a pseudo Bird of Paradise.
Yeah.
Seems fine. If he had enough things that he wanted to take out, that makes sense. Plus, it's possible that he thinks Bryan is on Purify the Grave instead of Rest in Peace.
Sure. So we're going to see Bryan cast an Augur Bolas here. Look through the top 3. Finds a Dissipate. Obviously, Augur can't find lands, which is still the issue here for Bryan. JR is going to actually have a nice window here. It looks like Bryan needs to discard a card. JR is going to have a window here to resolve a Huntmaster of the Fells, and that thing, obviously unmolested, is going to be very difficult for the blue-white flash. Yeah.
This is another problem that I run into with the blue-white flash deck every once in a while, is that like you're cantripping a lot, sure, but you just sometimes just don't hit the 3rd or 4th land.
Yeah, I've seen that happen actually, oddly enough, quite a bit. As we are going to see Temple Garden come to play untapped, Huntmaster make that life gain mostly irrelevant, or excuse me, that life loss mostly irrelevant, and we got a wolf token as well.
And there's the Woodsman from Little Red Riding Hood. I'm a little upset that the Grandma and Red Riding Hood herself don't see more standard play, just because they weren't good cards. Yeah. But
it's no fair.
Yeah.
It's really no fair.
It's unfortunate. That's an interesting one to put in a horror-themed set.
They'll do anything in
right.
Renton, as JR is going to find out
Yep.
starting on Monday.
That's right.
They'll do anything. Bryan finally does draw his 3rd land. It is Cavern Souls, which is not the ideal 3rd land to be drawing, especially in this matchup.
Yeah.
But at least it's going to allow him to, do stuff.
This is going to name Wizard, which is interesting because he can cast both of his wizards already, but can't cast his angels.
It is a bit of a surprise, as we see Bryan discards a Rest in Peace. Leads me to believe that he has another one.
Yeah.
We'll see Augur Bolas jump in the way of one of those.
Yep, little Lumen Grid Warden action, blocking a 2/2.
We'll see Overgrown Tomb coming to play untapped, and Swag Tusk. Feeling swaggy.
That's right. Otherwise known as How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Carry 2 Spears, as David McDarby said in his article, which I liked a lot. Hey, there's a 4th land, and it's a white one. That's a good one. That is the Franz Volwinkle drawn Glacial Fortress.
How do you know that?
Franz Volwinkle's in the room today is how I know that.
Okay, well that's the best segue ever that I did on accident.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty impressive.
We have an interview with him coming up sometime soon.
Quick, what set is that clone from?
That is a Onslaught clone.
Very good, very good.
Not my favorite clone. I love the Kev Walker clone.
That's my favorite clone.
The blunderbusses aiming at each other. You shoot him. No, you shoot him.
Yeah, I like that one. As we see Thragtusk coming across.
I imagine it's going to get blocked by the clone Thragtusk. Perhaps not.
Bryan considering Bryan chooses to take 5. And then another Thragtusk.
There he is.
Now, the tough thing here for Bryan, obviously, is that he needs to keep playing spells because at any point, Huntmaster of the Fells can flip.
That's right.
And then turn into a real threat as well.
Yeah, Huntmaster is very awkward for the Blue-White Flash deck because Blue-White Flash obviously likes to play at instant speed, and Huntmaster throws a kink in those works.
Yeah. As we see another clone drawn here for Bryan. So Bryan has the opportunity to copy another Thragtusk. Trying to make a game of it. I think doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, the problem is that as soon as John hits 8 mana, Crater of Behemoth's happening.
Assuming they're still in.
Assuming they're still in, sure.
Because we have already seen a couple sideboard cards from him. We have seen a Deathrite Shaman, a card that we weren't sure he was going to bring in. We're going to see a Mulch put on the stack here. So this will kind of open our eyes to exactly, if he has anything else we haven't seen yet.
Ooh, there's a Crater
There's
Hoof.
the hoof.
And there's also a Sever the Bloodline. Those are all going to hit the bin. Those are quite good. He also brought in the Ray of Revelations, anticipating the Rest in Peace.
Sure.
So we've got Unburial Rites going to the bin with another Crater Hoof and some lands going to the hand. So he's going to have 8 lands eventually.
Now, the problem here, obviously, for John is that I think he can kind of suspect
Rest in Peace is going to happen.
Yeah, that Bryan does have Rest in Peace because he already discarded one.
Yeah.
And now is as good a time as any to do that Rest in Peace. We're going to see Faithless Looting flashback here.
Yeah, I think that John's deck is better able to handle that now, though. He's going to have, he's going to be able to dig deeper into his deck with the Grizzly salvages that he has in hand. And Bryan being able to only cantrip They both have 2 Thrag Tusks, and one player has a Huntmaster and the other one has a 1/3.
And that looting on top of John's graveyard, they actually just caught it. That one was supposed to move from games, so glad they were on top of that there. And Bryan and the table judge. John looking through his graveyard, there's some Burial Rites, there's a Sever down there, there's some more lootings. Both Crater of Behemoths, those guys are all going to go bye-bye eventually. But as you said, Grizzly Salvage is still a card that lets you play a normal game of Magic, even though Rest in Peace is in play.
Yeah. And so many Beast tokens now.
It looks like he couldn't trade fast enough.
Yeah.
With those 2 clones. So John kicks it back over to Bryan.
He does have another Rest in Peace in hand. It looks like it's going to get cast here. There it is. Rest in peace.
Now he also gets the opportunity to represent both Essence Scatter and Syncopate this turn. So Bryan is doing a pretty nice job. Still, Huntmaster, still a very real problem here, though.
Yep. Fortunately for Bryan, all of his creatures have 3 toughness. But John has Thragtusks left in his deck, and Bryan does not have any more clones.
That is true. And pass back,
So,
make an attempt here.
Yep, and he's just going to get unsummoned.
Okay.
I think that was fairly pie in the sky to hope that there wasn't going to be an end of turn spell.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of nice for John because he does have a couple Grizzly Salvages in his hand. I think passing there is kind of. Yeah,
it's fine.
The word "free" doesn't make great
Right.
sense, but I think you understand what I mean.
So Bryan indeed has both Essence Scatter and Syncopate in hand now.
Can Bryan confidently pass back here?
Nope.
He will make an attack.
So we'll trade some beasts.
A little surprised with the trading there.
Yeah, that was a little interesting. Bryan also has Talrand in hand. He brought in his Talrands.
Okay. Doesn't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
If he plays Talrand, he's got to leave the shields
Yeah,
down.
that's right. And I think that that's probably the correct decision. Aha! So,
Grave Revelation. We see a rewind.
is he going to try it? Oh, he can't try it again. Never mind.
Yeah, Rest in Peace says no flashback.
That's right.
So you're going to play an honest game with me, buddy, whether you like it or not. Grizzly Salvage put on the stack now. 2, 3, 4,
Aha!
5.
There's some Cavern of Souls.
Yeah, I would take that too.
Yep, there's both Cavern of Souls, actually. Only need one, really. So we're going to cast another Grizzly Salvage, hoping to find a Craterhoof Behemoth, I imagine.
Well, both Craterhoofs are gone now.
Oh, are they both gone?
Yeah, both removed from the Rest in Peace.
Well, he's also got one more in the sideboard that he could have brought in.
Oh, okay, okay.
Looks like Bryan's going to syncopate here. If he syncopates for enough to make John unable to pay, he's going to leave only 1 mana left. And John will be able to untap and cast whatever he happens to draw.
We do see Syncopate. All right.
And also, he's going to be able to flip this Huntmaster. Aha, Angel.
That's a good draw.
That is a decent draw
That is
step.
a good Magic card. Does he have 3 white? Uh-oh.
He does. He has Temple Garden, Sun Petal Grove. He may have to name Angel with this cavern.
I see the Clifftop Retreat, actually.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Angel is a relatively good draw. It's not great, obviously, because he doesn't get to get anything back with it.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a 5/6 monster and, remove stuff. And I mean, that
seems completely reasonable. Yeah. Butcher your entire team, 5/6 flyer. That's mediocre.
Yeah, it's just like decent-ish.
Yeah, sure. This is a flyer that's bigger than everything you have in your deck.
So one heck of a draw step there from John, looking to get this game back in his favor. We're going to see Talron.
There's this guy summoner.
And again, Bryan does have to cast a spell there. He can't just pass, not because he's behind on board, but because Huntmaster, again, looming. Pretty safe attack.
Bryan's going to take 9 here.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, Magic is fun
Sure.
and easy.
Yeah, completely reasonable draw steps.
This is his last tournament before Wizards? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is this how you got employed?
Yeah, you ran good. Sure.
Back-to-back Angels, Serenities, for J.R. Wade, where Bryan was already in some trouble, as we see Restoration Angel main phase, kind of a, ugh,
Yeah.
I have to do this.
If you register for
Attack
standard
you.
web option
Yeah,
number 6,
yeah.
your events ready
And then
to
pass the
begin.
turn.
5, 6, 7, 8,
Inside
9.
event stage.
Pass an
Once
attempt
again,
to
standard
kill you with
web ops
Huntmaster, I
number
would
6.
assume.
Yep.
Yep, and that's it.
So J.R. Wade is going to be able to draw into the top 8 most likely here.
Moves on to 7-0.
7-0.
One heck of a
He
swan
may be able
song.
to draw in actually, because we had 397. The cutoff for 10 rounds is 402.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to have a lot of 7-0s.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's going to be able to draw.
So not for sure.
Right, not
but
for sure.
As close as you can get.
But you know what? 7-0 is the best you're going to be able to do at this point in the tournament.
Here's the thing: you draw like that, you don't need to draw.
That's right.